All right, this is Mark,
I'm Dave.
and tonight we have a couple special guests. We have Eric and Chris, and we're going to get into a topic here off different than what we've done in the past. A few weeks ago, we had a paranormal ghost type show where we had some experiences, and then we want to explore some different type topics,
I think it's called Change It Up a little bit.
change it up a little bit, which is what happens whenever you get around the campfire or the fire pit or step into the Stagshead Tavern. Is there's a variety of topics we might come up with, or
Some good, some interesting.
certainly
lots of
some good,
commentary.
some bad.
Yeah,
But tonight we're going to venture down the road. We're not going to try to convert anybody, but we're going to talk about Bigfoot as a, like I said, tying in with what we had talked about paranormal and a haunted house or ghost in a house or entities. This topic comes up. I think it's pretty popular, but I can't think of any time where I've been out camping with a group of men or scouts. I used to be involved with the Boy Scouts, and where a topic like this would come up, where we would talk about any creaking in the woods, a stick breaking. What was that? What was that? Obviously, little boys or young men, they overblow type things. But I think they're in the deep recesses of our mind, there could be a fear of running into one of these guys, right? Now, a little bit of my personal history is I would like to say I believe, but I have no idea, right? So I mentioned I was involved with scouts as a leader. I was involved with scouts as a youth. I spent a lot of time camping, hiking in the outdoors. A couple of years ago, I started hunting. And I could say that in all my experience, I've never had anything what I would consider to be a Class A or a Class B encounter. Now, do you know what that is, Dave?
I have no idea.
So ask me.
So what is a Class A, Mark?
Okay, so the difference is a Class A encounter is when you actually lay eyes on what you think is a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot.
Okay.
Now, a Class B, which it seems like a lot of people have, are circumstances that can't be explained away by being a fox or a bear. You're in your tent and suddenly something's throwing pine cones at your tent. You never see it, you never smell it, or you never put your eyes on it, but something weird happened. A raccoon can't pick up a pine cone and throw at you. So I think they call those Class B sites. And a lot of people have those.
Drop from the. I'm just saying.
But one after another, one after another. Also, things like if you listen to these kind of Bigfoot podcasts, often you have hunters that are out there that drop a deer and they go back to the truck and they come back and they find the blood trail and the blood puddle and there's no deer.
Yep.
And so that's like a Class B type site.
Because it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. What other animal out there in the wilderness could have come and picked that up and removed it without having to drag it or create a blood trail after the fact?
So, here. Wait a second. So, what would my childhood fear of growing up around the mountains of Colorado and seeing at some point during my youth, I saw some sort of story where there was a Bigfoot that reached through the window and attacked somebody, or Sasquatch, or a Yeti, whatever we want to call this, reached through and attacked somebody.
Yeah.
What class is that? I saw it on TV.
I don't know. I'm sure there's
it's
a definition for it.
it messed me up for a lot of years, even still probably now. Going out in the woods, I still think I'm seeing things, but I'm not. But so what is that, a Class C?
Maybe
Childhood scariness? Or
I'm not
child-
familiar with that fear level. Like, as far as it being a class or a definition,
Wait a second, you actually saw an arm come through a window?
No, it was on TV.
it was
you watched
from
it.
a
Okay.
TV show.
I'm not sure that would be a class. I think
Yeah.
that's just a TV show.
Yeah.
Class D.
But when you are 10 years old
I'm kidding.
and you're watching, it could be Class D or E or whatever you want to call it. But when you're 10 years old and you're watching TV, and you were back then, there were probably 4 channels or 5 channels. I'm watching TV downstairs alone, sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm watching the show on
I
Bigfoot.
was watching the same
Because-
Bionic Man.
Yeah, the Planet Man, the robotic Sasquatch.
Yeah, I watched all those things because those scared me too. But I was living in Colorado, and then we'd go camping all the time in the mountains, And man, I'm thinking this applies to me because Bigfoot sightings happen in the mountains out in the wilderness in Colorado and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
We went out there a lot, and it's deep, dark.
So you had an innate fear.
Yeah,
I
I guess
get
you
it.
could call it.
Yeah.
But it was, I still probably,
Fear of the
Yeah.
woods. You lived in Colorado.
it's always challenging when you live in Colorado and you got fear of the woods, but there are limits where you can go outside in the mountains. But in general, so this is, we're going to call that Class D, or for Dave, or C.
Yeah,
That's D for Dave.
Class D for Dave. I like that.
So that's my story about
Yeah.
things, and I think that's relevant to the conversation
Oh,
because
certainly,
it
certainly.
affected my life for years. I wouldn't go outside. I'm like, oh God, Sasquatch is going to come after me.
Yeah,
Really feel
that's for sure. Now we have Chris here tonight. In the last couple of years, Chris is my brother-in-law, and we've been married for 23 years or so.
We haven't been
Not
married.
me and my wife, your sister. So, but in those 23 years, I think we've had numerous Sasquatch conversations.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Bigfoot conversations. We
Fascinating.
we watch. Oh, honestly, I call myself I didn't experience Bigfoot, but I'm a Bigfoot consumer. Whether it's podcast or TV shows, finding Bigfoot, or just whatever on the internet.
See where they got me? Consuming that at 10 years old.
Yeah, maybe
Go out in
it's
the woods.
age appropriate, right? But the last couple of years, Chris and I, we've gone back and forth quite a bit. I think we have a favorite podcast that we listen to weekly. I used to be a subscriber, so I get the subscriber shows until my debit card got what we call hijacked. And no, not revoked, no. It got hijacked, and then the bank had to cancel. So I just never renewed my, what do you call it?
They call it stolen.
Stolen ID, right?
Yeah.
So,
Stolen.
so whatever subscriptions I had, everybody got canceled. So I never renewed that subscription.
You were on his subscription?
But I'm just saying, Dave. I like the stories enough that I was willing to pay for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So all you gentlemen are more experienced than the Class D
Class D.
encounters that I've had. So actually, you're not really. You're just a consumer.
Yeah.
You've never seen anything, never heard anything.
You know, there's been times I've been in the woods where I've gotten creeped out, and I'm not going to lie to you. At 5 a.m, when you're walking down to your hunting spot, and you're just going by the moonlight for whatever reason, there's no justification for it. Sometimes to me that's creepy.
That's because we've been brought up in a society of fear.
Yes,
Go outside
yeah.
and you're fear of the unknown.
Yeah, but those squirrels sound so big at that time of day.
Okay.
Seriously. So that's why Chris is here. He's going to be our resident Bigfoot expert. He knows probably more about it than the collective right here.
Talks more.
Yeah, definitely talks about it, right?
That's going to open up all kinds of
It
questions.
talks
for me.
about it. So we also have Eric,
Fascinating.
who he's actually had an experience, and he told us at a family gathering, and honestly, I think it was something similar to being out by the fire pit. Just guys sitting around talking, and we might have had a cigar, we might have had a bourbon, but the story comes out, and it's very engaging, very realistic. Again, if you watch some of these podcasts, within 10 seconds of some of these guys telling stories, you know that they're just full of it. It's just, you could, but also there's sometimes when those stories, you hear the genuine emotion and the fear in those people telling them. And I'm not saying I'm a sucker for teardrop, but sometimes like these guys have some very
I'm trying
compelling
not to. I'm
stories.
trying not to roll my eyes
Yeah,
on that
it does.
No, but it is. It's a fascinating topic in my opinion, and it's so. I think I've had a couple. I would classify Class B experiences, and it could be figure in my imagination or whatever. But I'll just say, we always joke about the Bigfoot, and we hear and watching the stories and stuff. But when I heard his story, that brought knowing him, growing up with him my whole life, really brought some credence to the whole Bigfoot thing, because like I said, I know this guy, he's not going to lie about something like that. I believe he saw what he saw. And yeah, that's when I really started believing, gosh, there could really be something out there. But anytime you see or anytime I see or hear something about an officer or a military guy, it just adds more authenticity
And I
to
don't hate to
the
say street cred because that's like a
Yeah.
slang term.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to believe those people no matter what. We're as kids, we're taught to trust police officers. You were taught to trust or respect the military. And we do. So with somebody like that is going to bring forth a story.
Yeah.
I think right away, right or wrong, you are going to put that story, I think, on a different level,
Yeah.
trying to believe it. Now, you get down into the story and there's some really weird circumstances, maybe you're not going to believe it. But that brings us to Eric. And Eric, why don't you give us some backstory on who you are, what led to this encounter, where you were at, what you were doing at that time, and then just break down the details step by step of what happened. And then also, maybe I could remind you at the end, but ask at the time, what were you thinking?
Sure.
Because I think if I was out in the woods and something happened, I would immediately start thinking, is there a camera around somewhere? Somebody's trying to play a trick on me or something like that. So, okay, the camera scenario.
Yeah.
So I'm the only one that hasn't heard this story. Have you told the story a lot, or
I've
these
told it
guys,
in
or-
brief a couple
few
times.
times.
I've never really got into background detail,
Okay.
Yeah,
context.
we're going to get some more tonight than probably what Chris and I have even heard.
Yeah. Okay. I enlisted in the Air Force in 1992. I was enlisted from 92 to 96. The career field I ended up in is called TACP. And what TACPs are, we provide close air support for the military, for the Army in particular. And so we're basically forward air controllers. We would go to school for that, where we would learn specifically all the responsibilities and get the certifications to actually control air. As you can imagine, it's a pretty weighty responsibility. You're the person on the ground that is actually directing the aircraft and clearing its ordnance to be released. So it's not something that everyone does in the military. The aircraft don't just come into an operational area and anyone can talk to it and direct the munitions and direct close air support. It's a very specific job with a very specific responsibility. And as a result of being a TACP and going through all the courses and training, as a TACP, you get attached to an Army unit, okay? Because what you are is their connection to the firepower in the sky. And so I was in the Air Force, enlisted in the Air Force as a TACP. So I had Air Force chain of command. I was in an Air Force unit, but our unit was detached and made part of an Army unit. Okay, that's what TACPs were, attached to Army units. So essentially we have Air Force chain of command, but we live in a sea of green, right? So we're based on Army posts. We don't live on Air Force bases typically. And so you have TACPs that are attached to mechanized units, armored units, infantry units. And so when I got my assignment out of tech school, I was sent to Fort Polk, Louisiana. And Fort Polk, Louisiana was what they call the joint, or it still is, the Joint Readiness Training Center, JRTC. And what they do at JRTC is they do training for light infantry. So you have different light infantry units like 82nd Airborne, the 101st, the 6th ID, the 75th Ranger Regiment. These are all light infantry units. And JRTC, its function is to provide light infantry training to all these units. And so what JRTC did was 2 weeks out of 10 months a year, 2 weeks out of each month, we would have what we call the rotation or an exercise. And so you might have, for example, you might have 75th 1st Ranger Regiment do an exercise, and they would come in for 2 weeks in January. And that entire 2 week period, we would run a large scale, like brigade, or usually like brigade level exercises. With the Ranger Regiment, it would have been battalion level. But so you would run this exercise, and the way the exercise ran was we would use laser equipment. So you're obviously not shooting live ammunition, you're shooting lasers, right? You've got laser sensors on a harness. Every person in the exercise has laser, like these vests that they wear. They have these sensors on them.
Laser tag.
Yeah, it's laser. It's just laser tags.
It's laser tag for big guys.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you'd have the incoming unit, the training unit, which would be, like I said, let's say the 1st Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. They would be called the Blue Forces. And then you would have the guys that provide the opposition. Those are the guys stationed at Fort Polk that are there every rotation. They're the bad guys, right? They're the foil. and they're called Op 4. And so these two forces would come together over the 2-week period and have different phases of the exercise, but they would be a 2-week exercise where they would play this laser tag games. And part of the laser tag game was the close air support. Okay,
Makes sense.
but you can't really fit an A10 or an F-16 with laser gear.
Yeah.
So what my job was, I was part of it, being attached to JRTC. It was actually a training unit, and so we were, for lack of a better analogy, we would be like referees between the blue forces and the op 4. And so they call us observer controllers, OC. And the Army had them too. The Army would have OCs that would be attached to each of the units and provide oversight and kind of referee, because you are talking laser tag and there's shenanigans that go on with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the Op 4 was really good at shenanigans. But anyway, so I was a observer controller for the Air Force, and my job was to get to an area where the blue forces would be employing close air support. So they might have an A-10 on station, and so we were typically on ATVs with radios and all our gear, or we might be in Humvees with all our radios and gear. And we would,
stuff.
what's that?
Fun stuff.
Really fun stuff, especially the ATVs. Because what would happen is we would be listening on our radios. We would be listening to the conversations that the TACPs would be having with the aircraft above. We'd be dialed into onto their frequencies, and we would be listening to them talking to the aircraft. And the point was, we had to know what they were going to do, because if they were going to attack a specific area, they would be talking with the aircraft about that. And that would help us clue into, okay, we're going to have to get over here to this spot, because we're going to have to simulate the aircraft dropping ordnance or coming in with munitions.
Okay.
Because you can't do that with laser gear, with aircraft. And so our job was to get to the spot where the aircraft are going to come in and drop munitions and provide close air support. And then we would simulate that with artillery simulators, quarter stick of dynamite, they're pretty loud, and it kind of simulates like 500-pound bombs and munitions and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Everyone knows they're getting hit with those artillery simulators. And so we would listen to the conversations. We would go out and we would simulate the strike. We would watch the strike, watch the aircraft come in, provide assessments, how many people died, how many people are walking wounded. And so essentially that was what I did for about 3 years at Fort Polk.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time in the woods. It was 2 weeks every month. We did 10 rotations a year, so it's 10 months a year. And so that's some of the background of where this happened. It was on the range where we were doing these exercises.
Okay.
So pause there and see if you guys have any questions.
So
What
there's
was the go ahead.
when you're doing this and when the incident happened, is there a lot of people moving around everywhere, or I'm trying to get the setting of you're driving up in an ATV or a Humvee or something like that. There's people all over the place, kind of thing?
Yeah, so let me lay out the setting of the range. Okay, so the range that we operated on is about, I would say it's probably 15, 20 miles east to west,
Okay.
maybe 10 miles north to south.
Okay.
So it's pretty big.
Big. Yeah.
It's
All
big.
woods, right? All woods.
There's some open areas.
Oh, fields type.
Oh yeah. In fact, the main area for the exercise is kind of like the eastern third of the range. If you imagine the range being cut up in thirds,
Yeah.
the eastern third of the range had a huge open area that's probably 1.5 miles by 3 miles, which was a flight landing strip. So you've got a flight landing strip where aircraft can land and stuff. But it's even bigger than that. It's a huge open area, like I said, about 1 by 3 miles maybe.
Okay.
But all around that is all woods. There's dirt roads and everything, and there's little mock villages where they'll
Oh, exercises and stuff.
they'll conduct different types of exercise. Maybe you have the special forces in there trying to gain hearts and minds on this village or something. So there's lots going on, Dave. But the area that the actual exercise is operating in is probably maybe 5 miles by 10 miles.
Okay.
Okay, about 5 miles wide by 10 miles. So it's pretty big. And you've got, I want to say that they would usually bring in brigade size. So you might have multiple battalions,
What is the size of a brigade?
a couple thousand.
Oh, a couple thousand.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay.
It's big. So you've got
Lots of people, yeah.
yeah. But it depended. I'm trying to think now. I think like the Rangers maybe only came in with a battalion, so it would have been much smaller. But you would have either brigade or battalion size forces in there. So you're talking thousands of guys, because then you've got the opposition force as well.
Yeah.
And so they've got hundreds of guys. I don't know if they had thousands, but they had hundreds of guys. And by the end of the exercise, it ramps up. It starts out with what they call lick phase, low intensity conflict. And so it's just small battles. It's SF in the little villages, gaining hearts and minds. And the intensity ramps up to where at the very end, the last day, you have the opposition forces with 2 massive columns of armor and mech units. And they're doing a full-on assault, like with maybe 50 tanks and different mechanized units, BMPs, simulated BMPs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's in the main part of the play box. Now the middle, if you think of the middle, if it's 15 by 10, the middle part, which is about 5 miles by 10 miles, was really reserved for what my team did. It's a live fire range. It was called the Red Leg Live Fire Range, and it's a big open field. Because what happened was, when the aircraft would come in to play in the actual war game, they would first come through Red Leg, to our live fire site, to do actual munition drops.
Okay.
So our guys had 2 jobs. We were referees out here in the play box, in the exercise,
Yeah.
but we were also running a range, a live fire range. Because you don't want, for example, you don't want some F-16s coming directly into a play box carrying 500 pounds or 200 pounds or 1,000-pound bombs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want them to go to the range first and release those bombs and get rid of them, get rid of their ordnance, and then they rotate into the actual exercise, and it's much safer that way.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
But plus, it was training for the pilots, because they got to release live munitions, and I'm sure it went to certifications and stuff for them as well. So that was the middle part. And then the kind of beginning part, there was like UB villages, close quarter combat villages, where, again, the Spec Ops guys would operate and do their unique training. And some of this may have changed. I'm sure the range isn't the same as it was, because I was doing it back in 92 to 96. So I'm sure there's been a lot changed.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah,
So,
it was.
What section were you in when
Well,
this happened?
I would operate in both the live fire range. I ran a lot of actual live fire with the aircraft, where we would drop their munitions, and they would come in 500-pound to 2,000-pound bombs. They would run guns.
Yeah.
So we would do all that here. And then there were times where I was out being like a referee, or what they call with OC, out in the actual box. Probably much more time out here being a referee. But it was a lot of fun. It was a really fun 4 years.
Kind of sounds like it.
Yeah.
Lots going on.
Oh yeah, it was great because when we were out here in the box, we call it the play box, the exercise, we were running either Humvees or ATVs. So we were just screaming through the woods, because these aircraft, they could be looking at something over here 1 minute, and then literally 30 seconds later, they're 5 miles over here. And so you got to be racing through the woods to try to get to these spots where they're about to, come in and level strikes. We did a lot of racing through the woods on ATVs, which was, to do that for 3 years was, that was so fun.
Get paid to do it, too.
Get paid to do it.
You get to do it.
And you're like frontline the war game. It's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just watching it all happen. And refereeing it.
Yeah, and there was times where I joined Op 4, and I got to be out there with the Op 4 guys, too, because I got the
for the yellow flags penalty.
It was a lot of fun.
So walk us in an incident. Where were you when that happened? What part of the thing? And then walk us in. How did that all? What were you doing? How did it all play out?
Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to remember when this happened. I think this was 96. This might have been the last year I was there. What happened was, it was actually me. I was running live air in the Red Leg Range with an F-16, and he had 500-pound bombs on, and I was running the air with him, and I brought him in on a west to east heading, so he was coming somewhat towards the play box, and he was going to drop a 500-pound bomb on a tank that we had down there in the range. And somehow when he pickled, that's when they pulled the trigger When he pickled, the bomb got hung up.
Shit.
So as he pickled and trims off for his egress out of the box, what he's doing is he's coming in west to east like this. He's going to pickle the bomb, and then he's going to trim his aircraft and come off. Something happened between the pickle and the trim
Damn.
where the bomb came off late, and he was starting to climb and turn,
And then
and the bomb released. Instead of the bomb coming down here like this, where it was supposed to, it came off like this.
Whoa.
And we weren't sure what happened. I'm sure there was an investigation done into it, and I think it just got hung up or something. It was a mechanical glitch. But what ended up happening was this 500-pound bomb went flying off range.
whoa.
And it's flying towards the play box
Yeah.
where
Whoa.
all the exercises
The
are going
guys
on.
are going.
Now, there's a pretty good separation, and that's for safety reasons. In fact, the play box is defined where the guys in the play box are not supposed to go past a certain point, but you're not supposed to be within a certain distance of the range. And so there was like 2 miles in between. So really enough to handle any kind of incident like that. What happened, that the bomb came off, and I think it went about a mile off range. Maybe not a mile, but somewhere it went quite a ways off range. And apparently there was an SF group that was operating a little bit over maybe where they shouldn't have been, or on the edge of where they could be. And they were on the east side of a hill. The bomb came in and hit on the west side of the hill.
Okay.
So there was a hill in between, so they didn't get any shrapnel or anything. But apparently the shock wave knocked them off their feet. That's how close it was.
Wow.
So I was curious to where this happened and where that bomb landed and where these guys were.
Yeah.
And so one day when I was out in the box, I wanted to go and find that site.
Okay.
I wanted to go and see where that was, and just do an after action on it and see, were these guys beyond where they should have been? Not to try and get anyone in trouble, but just for my own understanding. And so I figured out where we thought the bomb had landed. And then when I was out in the play box one day, we had some break time in between air, because you don't have air on station all the time. You might have a flight of A-10s come in for an hour, and then you don't get anything for another 4 hours. Then you get some F-16s or whatever. So there was some downtime, and I wanted to go see the site where this occurred. And so this was a really unused part of the range, because you're between the play box and the live fire area, so there's really nothing in there.
Yeah.
And so I found like a goat trail, basically, or not a goat trail. It was wide enough to drive a Humvee through,
Yeah.
but it was an old trail. You wouldn't be able to see it from up above with a satellite or anything. It was overgrown, but it was enough I could get the Humvee through, and I had to just crawl through at 5 miles an hour and just work my way down just to see what I could see. I came up over this. So this is really in the middle of nowhere, right? There's nothing out. There shouldn't be anyone out here. The guys are not supposed to be out here. Maybe you might get a SEP unit every once in a while that'll kind of go a little wide. They'll swing a little wide, but just to avoid conflict. But there shouldn't be anyone out here. There's no games going on out here. It's all the way over by the flight landing strip, Geronimo DZ. And so I'm making my way down this path, just kind of crawling through because it's tight. I've got to turn left and right, getting around trees and stuff. It's not like it's a straight shot. And I come up over a hill. And when I crest the hill, I look down, there's a swale, and I see something. This is right. I'm going to take a quick drink.
See something.
Now, can I just say something? Just go ahead, actually.
Oh, good, good.
The SF guys, would they be wearing ghillie suits, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because when I come up over the hill, crest the hill, and I see something, I stop immediately because I'm like, oh shit, what is that?
Yeah.
And my first thought is that a bear? Because it's big, it looks like it's got fur or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, is that a bear over there?
So
So
I'm getting nervous just freaking thinking.
I have a series of alternatives that are running through my head real quick.
Yeah.
The first one, is it a bear? Because if it's a bear, I don't want to be here. I need to back out.
Yeah.
And then my thought is, no, it's standing up. It's standing up. not like a bear would stand. It's standing like a person. And I'm like, shit, maybe it's these SF guys again. Maybe it's someone in a ghillie suit. Maybe it's a recon team or some SF team. And I'm like, again, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be giving them away. I got to back out of here. And then the craziest part happens. This is where I look down because I'm looking at this thing standing up.
You're in your Humvee.
Yeah.
You're looking down the hill.
I'm looking down the hill, probably at my 10 o'clock. It's down a little swale, probably maybe 25, 30 meters. And I see what looks like either a guy in a ghillie suit or a Sasquatch.
It's pretty close. 20. Yeah. Okay. Man.
Yeah. Closer
Okay.
than I wanted to be.
Okay.
I think what happened was they couldn't, whatever it was, couldn't see me, but they could hear me, so they probably froze. And then when I came up over the hill, maybe they were hoping I would pass on by, but I came up over the hill. So when I saw them, they were just frozen. They were just standing there. And I say they, because this is where the shocker really hit me. This is where the wheels start really turning. Okay, this ain't no SF unit. There's a smaller one right next to the bigger one.
What?
Shit.
Comes up maybe to hip height. And this is where, again, I'm thinking, is this a bear and a cub? But they're both standing up.
Yeah.
That's not normal behavior. You're not just going to see a bear and a cub standing up perfectly erect, like I guess the word is bipedal.
Yeah.
But there they were, standing there, and they're looking right at me. And I'm looking right at them. And all these thoughts are going through my head. Is it a guy in a ghillie suit? But then I started thinking, is it a hunter? And maybe with his kid?
So what time of day is this? Or is this at
Oh, yeah,
morning
this is like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
to the bright day.
Yeah, and there's the thing about this area and a lot of the range actually is you have a lot of forested area, and this is a very forested area.
Yeah.
However, you also have a lot of fires because we're running munitions out here on the Red Leg Range, right,
Yeah.
with aircraft. You've
Yeah.
got A-10s firing 30 millimeter rounds. You've got 500-pound, 1,000-pound bombs. You've got in the play box, you've got guys like me throwing artillery simulators, quarter stick dynamites. You have fires all the time.
Yeah.
And so it may be just part of the terrain naturally, but there's not a lot of undergrowth.
Okay.
Either it's burned away or it's just not naturally there. Until you get down in the wetter areas, the creek areas, then it can get pretty swampy and they can be pretty thick undergrowth. But there's no undergrowth here. So it's just these tall trees where you can see pretty far.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see really well. And the light penetrates. It's not double or triple canopy or anything
Right.
like that. So you can see really well.
What
And-
what color was it? Could you tell what kind of color was
So
it? Was it like a dark fur?
You're sitting there. You're sitting there, and you see dark something ghillie suit, whatever you're trying to assess exactly what's happening.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what it is I'm seeing and how quickly I need to be maneuvering out of here. I'm thinking no matter what, I probably need to be maneuvering out of here. Because if it's blue forces, if it's some recon team, I don't want to be giving their position away. So I need to egress out of there.
But there
But-
had been a moment though when it really registered to you, like, that's a fucking Bigfoot. Did you have that moment where like that's a
Yeah.
sauce
Is that after the fact, or wouldn't it be? So right now you're trying to figure out what's going on.
Actually, I think what's happening is as soon as I rule out bear and then I rule out an SF team, at this point, I'm trying to rationalize what else it might be than what it looks like to me.
And it's a big, it's something large, and then it's something small, half
Yeah, it's something, and I'm close enough. Like I said, I'm maybe 30 meters. I'm trying to think like an Olympic pool. I'm maybe
Yeah.
a little bit further than an Olympic pool, so probably like 30 meters.
Yeah.
Pretty close. You can,
Yeah,
and you can gauge someone's size Although I'm looking downhill, I wasn't really sure, but it looked pretty big to me. It looked like something pretty big. And then I see a smaller one that maybe comes up to the hip height.
And it's
So
standing.
like an adolescent. I'm thinking of this as like an adolescent. So again, I'm running through the alternatives, but I'm really trying to just rationalize what I'm hoping it isn't. Yeah. Because at the same time I'm looking at him, I haven't really explained this yet, but they're both looking at me.
Yeah.
And I can see it now. I'm really getting a good sight picture on this thing, on its form, the breadth of its shoulders, the length of its arms, and the face.
Yeah.
And the face that was what was really striking. And that's where I began to try to rationalize. Maybe this could be a bear. This could be a bear. Maybe it's a hunter. Maybe it's a hunter with his kids out here and they're both in ghillie suits. Maybe he's got a kid in ghillie suit. I don't know.
In the middle
Hopefully-
of a war zone, training war zone.
That's the other thing. You're
not
talking,
you
this
can't
is a
find out
massive range area,
Yeah.
and locals don't come into a live exercise where we're dropping 500-pound
Yeah.
bombs and you've got thousands of military personnel.
There's got to be no trespassing or that sort of thing, isn't there? Or, I mean,
Oh,
I think.
yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
No one
Yeah,
else.
this is federal land. You
Yeah.
know, you can't be on it, especially because of the exercises and the potential for
Yeah, I think so.
things to go wrong if you got people out there. But I'm rationalizing all these things. Again, I think the first thing was, is it a bear? Is it an SF recon team? Is it a bear again? I'm trying to go back to bear when I see the little one. And then I think the last one I'm thinking, is it maybe some hunters? The hunter's got his little kid out here in ghillie suits. It doesn't make any sense. Plus, it's probably, I want to say this was summertime. This was probably like June, July in Louisiana. You're not going to be wearing a ghillie suit or have your 7-year-old kid in a ghillie suit
Yeah. I know.
in the middle of 100-degree, 89% humidity in Louisiana.
Yeah. So what was it about the face then that kind of struck you?
The thing that reminds me most of, so there was a lot of hair, but there was skin too. It wasn't all completely filled in with hair. There was like the eyes, and around the eyes you could see, I don't want to be making up memories here, but I remember I could see the face. It wasn't all covered in hair like a bear would just have fur everywhere, right? Like a dog, everything would be covered in fur. It wasn't like that. There was skin. It was like a face.
Okay.
Just a very heavily bearded face.
Needed a haircut. I guess so.
I think. Do you ever remember the circus boys, the Wolf family or something like that?
Yeah,
from
Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like that, where there was an excessive amount of facial hair, but yet you could still see the facial features. The nose wasn't covered with hair. The portions of the cheek wasn't covered with hair.
Okay.
Not everything was covered. And
How tall did you estimate? Kind of, if you're thinking about, because I always hear that there's Bigfoot, Yeti are supposed to be pretty
Yeah, pretty big.
Okay.
pretty tall.
so this is after the fact, but I remember where the thing was standing, and it was right next to trees, and I could see the branch that it came up to. And so the following day I went back out there, found that spot, and I went to the tree where this thing was, and I saw the branch, and I'm looking up at the branch
Whoa.
where its head was. So it's,
4 or 6 feet. Yeah.
I,
7,
I don't remember, but
7 or 8 or whatever.
it was tall. It was, I think it had to have been at least 7 feet. It was big. The branch was up above my head a good bit.
Okay.
Of course, this is 30 years ago too, but I do remember going out the next day because I knew right where that spot was.
Yeah.
And I found that spot. I came up over the hill. I walked down to that tree. And I'm like, yeah, this.
You looking for any hair or the proverbial
Bigfoot print.
Bigfoot or something like that?
I don't remember. I probably did. I don't remember seeing anything.
So you're okay. So sorry for interrupting. What happens next? You're sitting there you're backing up. You start to back up because you don't know what's
No,
going on.
I'm not
or-
backing up at this point. As I'm going through these alternatives, trying to reconcile what I'm seeing here, I feel like I'm running out of options real quick.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I think it is what it looks like. And so immediately, this is where I start to get a little nervous, and I'm thinking, I probably need to egress the shit out of here.
Yeah.
And I'm in a Humvee, and remember, I've crawled to this area. It's all trees.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how am I going to back out of here? I've got an entire rack of radios behind me.
Yeah.
I can only drive with mirrors. I can't look. I've got all my vision's blocked because I've got an entire rack of radios. And so I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to get out of here? Because I'm not going to be able to get out very fast. I've got to find a turning spot. This thing's only 30 meters away. It's not going to take long to cover that distance. So this is where I'm thinking to myself, actually started praying, saying, please, I don't mean you any harm.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mean me any
You're
harm.
talking to it.
I'm thinking to it. I'm thinking, look, I don't want to be here. I don't mean you any harm.
Wow.
I hope you don't mean.
Was it that imposing? Did it look that frightening? Sounds like
It's
it.
the size of a bear. No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
big. This
Yeah.
thing's big, and it's got a pup or whatever you call it. It's got a little one with it,
Yeah.
and
So that
you're thinking, well, maybe
ultimately-
that might be a maternal instinct there. If it's a mother,
Yeah.
Yeah.
protective instinct.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to project to this thing, look, I don't mean you any harm. Live and let live. And because I didn't have any,
Weapons with
I
it.
didn't, I didn't, it was all just simulators and stuff like that. It's not like I had an M16 with real rounds or anything.
Yeah.
I had no way to really defend myself. And so, but it never made any aggressive move. It just we stared at each other for 30 seconds as I'm running all these scenarios through my head, thinking, how the hell do I back out of here without slamming into a tree
Yeah.
and saying, I don't mean you any harm. Hopefully you don't mean me any harm. And then all of a sudden it just, I guess it's getting an assessment of the situation and realize I didn't present a threat to it. And it just turned and started walking up the other side of the hill, the swale. And the way it walked, it sauntered. But it covered
Just
some.
like all the normal stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that video that's so famous? It's in Oregon or something.
Oh, it's the
Patty film.
patty
It's not-
film. Yeah.
Is it
Patterson.
Patterson.
It's not Zapruder, no.
Patterson? Is it
Yes,
Patterson?
Patterson Gimlin film.
Patterson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like that. And I tell you, it looked like that too.
I think everybody's seen
It looked
The
like
face
that?
looked like that too. It
Wow.
looked like that. It had that big, large frame, huge, broad shoulders, long arms. And when it walked like that, it was a saunter. It was a long,
Dang.
slow saunter like that. And
Sure.
it started walking up the hill on the other side of the swale, and the little one turned and just followed it. And up they went, and over the other side they went, and away I went.
And you're sitting there and you turned around and wow.
And I like, what the hell did I just see? And
Could you
I
make
mean-
out any other features? Could you tell if it was male or female?
No,
No.
I just assumed it was female because it was with
Yeah.
a little one with it.
What was the thing that stood out the most? You say the face, pretty much?
Face. Yeah, the face. Because it was like a face. It wasn't like a chimp
Oh, yeah.
or an orangutan.
Yeah.
It was like a face.
You felt like you were staring back into the eyes of a human?
I don't know if I want to say human, but it was a face, man. It was a normal nose,
Yeah.
eyes, the symmetry, it looked like a face. Yeah, it looked like a human face in a way. Probably bigger. Maybe the nose was a little bit bigger,
Yeah.
but it looked eerily.
That sounds like Class A. That's a Class A sighting.
Yeah, he had a class.
Yeah.
Easily,
Yeah, he
yeah.
saw
That's
That beats my Class D by a lot.
a little bit, yeah.
And plus, you went back the next day.
I went back the next day. Yeah, I was really curious to see how big that thing was because it looked big, but it was standing right next to this tree with a branch, and so I had a pretty good measurement right there, just with the tree and the
Yeah,
branch.
yeah,
So
reference
it's not
points.
like I had to estimate. It was right there. The branch is right there. It is right about where its head was. But and the thing is, I'd spent a lot of time out there, a lot of time in the woods. I was in ranger school, spent a lot of time out in the woods, in the mountains, and then the 3.5 years at ROTC, or not ROTC, but JRTC. So I was comfortable in the woods, really comfortable.
Never seen anything like that then, ever.
I'd seen some crazy shit in ranger school, but it was mostly hallucinations. There's a few stories. You hallucinate
But that
lack of
was
sleep,
that wasn't
but-
one of those times though.
No, this
It
I
wasn't
was
during-
well rested.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was right in the middle of the day. I mean,
Yeah.
in ranger school, you're operating on 1 or 2 hours sleep a night for 10 days, but so you hallucinate. But yeah, no, this was really. And the funny thing is, I was never interested in any of this stuff. I was more interested, for me personally, it was like Marian apparitions, like Our Lady of Fatima. Maybe a little bit of alien stuff was somewhat interesting to me. I've never really have been that interested in the whole Bigfoot phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's just never really been on my radar. So it was so strange that when this happened to me, I'm like, why the hell did I have a Bigfoot experience, a Sasquatch experience? I would have rather have seen a spaceship or something. That would have been more aligned to my interest. I had zero interest in it. Yeah, so that
So do you
was my experience.
tell your friends or your teammates or superior? Did you write a report on the? Did you write a report on this whole thing?
Did I report this? Did I tell anyone?
Did
I
you tell anybody? Did you?
So I didn't write anything down, Dave. The first time I ever told anyone about this was 20 years later. I never said anything to anyone. I didn't want the ridicule, the stigma that's attached and associated with it. I never would have heard the end of it in my unit. So
Hey guys, guess what happened? That's
Yeah.
what I saw.
First time I mentioned it was when I was hiking with my kids about 20 years later.
Yeah.
We were in Ohio, East Ohio.
Wait, I saw Bigfoot.
Yeah, we were in East Ohio,
You don't need to fear all that stuff. I've seen it already.
and we were walking through the woods, hiking,
Yeah.
and the trees and everything, how open the trees were, just reminded me of Fort Polk, and it triggered the memory. And I remember telling my kids, "You're never going to believe this, and I've never told anyone this, but I saw something 20 years ago," and I told them a little bit about it.
That's cool. I mean,
Yeah, but no, I didn't.
I get it.
No,
Didn't report it. Didn't tell anyone.
Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Bigfoot world, there are quite a bit of military members, former military members, that have reported stories similar to what you're talking about, being out on maneuvers. And it seems like and again, they seem like there are these Pacific Northwest bases, and one or two of these bases have I don't want to say reputation, but there are some stories, whether they exist in the military, passed along like the infantry members, the guys on the ground, or just if it's in the Bigfoot community. But can you remember, you didn't tell your experience, you didn't tell anybody about it, but do you remember locker room talk and somebody saying, "Oh man, you wouldn't believe it, but there's things out there in the woods"? Was there any kind of rumors at that base that you could remember?
I'd never heard any talk about anyone seeing it,
Okay.
seeing anything like that. It's not to say that it hadn't happened, but
Sure.
it's almost, I think, just based on my experience, that people are reluctant to say anything.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, there's the stigma, there's
Yeah.
a ridicule factor to it. I'm not gonna.
But now,
I'm gonna
30
get
years
heckled
later,
for the
your
rest of my
stories
time.
come out though, right? 30 years later, now you've
Yeah.
kind of told
Now
us.
you got UFOs and everybody's
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about releasing things and
So this is
stuff.
age of disclosure, right? Is that
I guess something like that.
that's a plug for me.
So is there a database that we
There's
Yeah. area or something like that around?
I bet you
for
there's something we could research after the fact, and you might find out that there's been 100 different P guys that have reported something similar. Now, after the fact, it might not have been an official after action report or something like that. Now that they're out of the military for years and retired, and it's, you know what? It's time to tell my story, and then you might find.
Yeah.
I know. I want to look into it.
That's what I've seen and heard. Guys like him, 20 years, 30 years down the road, some of these guys are maybe colonels or something, and they didn't want to tell their story because they were afraid of losing,
Career.
career or credibility or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not a gun expert, but I listen to the same podcast Mark does. But yeah,
There's a stigma. There's a stigma. At least there was. At least that was my perception.
Same thing with the pilots and these UFOs.
Yeah.
Those guys, even if they told their supervisor, that guy's don't tell anybody else, they're not passing those stories on.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
They have at the bottom of the report saying, "Oh, and by the way, saw something, a Yeti or a Sasquatch, or something unusual."
Be sitting in for a psych valve, and that kind of stuff. So
Send it.
once
send it
again,
directly
though,
to a psych-
the stories that you do listen to, there's like a common theme or thread. A lot of the features and a lot of the things like he described, you hear in a lot of the stories. There's a big, tall, human-looking thing, but can't really tell because it might be like a ape or whatever. But yeah, I mean,
you also mentioned before we started that this federal area was backed up to other, what do you call them, natural park or national parks, a state park. So it wasn't just that range that was wooded that might be potential habitat. It was vast all around there. So
Yeah, I think, in that general area of Fort Pope, Fort Pope, the range area, is federal property, right? There are, I think, 3 other federal wildlife preserves or national forests, and there's another one that is a state one. So there's at least 4 federal and state national forests right in that area that I think are about 500,000 acres. So this whole area, even though they're not all attached, they're a little bit spread out. There's little gaps between them. But that general area of central Louisiana, there's pretty extensive wildlife preserve and national state forest in that area. So there's a lot of raw land, untouched land. And so there's a lot of room for wildlife to
move around,
to live.
Maybe Squatch was mad that bomb went off course and took out their den.
Maybe that had them on the move.
but that's the thing. That's one more thing that again just kind of lends to the whole scenario, whatever, that you're not going to have a hunter roaming around out there. You're not going to take your kid out there, or you're not going to even hiking or something. You're not.
Yeah.
Not if you know it's a training zone where bombs are going to be dropped. And I would think that anybody that lived in that area would know that's some sort of training area.
Man, especially that range. You do not go near that. There was another incident we had, maybe getting off track here a little bit, but we were running F-16s on the live fire range. And I mentioned the impetus of this whole story was a 500-pound bomb that went loose. We had a Maverick missile go loose one time too. That F-16 came in, we had them fire Maverick missiles, and the Maverick went squirrely. And this thing landed off range like 5 miles in some farmer backyard area. You didn't go near the range.
Yeah.
Locals knew there was
be
heavy
some
ordnance being
misfires,
dropped in,
yeah.
and we're not always precise.
Yeah, it's practice.
It is practice. It's always practice. Crap happened all the time. Guys died out there during these exercises. Very serious accidents. It's nowhere to be just. You can go hunt anywhere. You're not going to go hunt right around 1,000 soldiers. Plus, a good chance you're going to get shot. You start firing weapons around 1,000.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Army guys, SF guys.
All the questions.
And even to this day, I know what I saw, and what I saw, I have a hard time reconciling what else it might be, although I'm not going to say definitively that it's a Sasquatch. It sure looked like it to me. I would have to really reach into the bag of weird alternatives, like maybe CIA running some PSYOP in the middle of the... You'd have to get off to some pretty bizarre explanations to get beyond, I think, just
But
the most plausible explanation.
the thing, then, like sometimes you listen to these stories and they'll say that things started swaying a little bit aggressively, like an ape. And with this thing having a younger thing with it, You didn't do anything
It
like
was
that.
just
Or just
frozen,
just-
It was just
so-
frozen. And it was really weird. Even though I was concerned, I never sensed a real threat. It didn't seem like it had an animus in it towards me. It really did. It just, I was worried because if it did, I
Oh no.
don't know what I would have
I would
done. I would have
assessed
been in
that you
trouble.
were,
Yeah, you
you're a
just
bad
ran it,
driver.
have 'em on.
Yeah.
Lost. This guy's
Dude,
lost.
Yeah.
you guys lost, and hey, you can't back up. I'm getting out of here.
But it didn't appear aggressive. One thing I was worried about was because it had the little one, that there might be this protective instinct that would, as
Yeah.
you'd expect
Yeah.
with animals.
Yeah.
But it didn't show that. It didn't display that. It just assessed me as much as I was assessing it. That's the thing. It was like, it was being thoughtful. It was assessing me. I was running through scenarios in my head. This thing was doing the same thing. What's the risk here? It's probably running a risk assessment on me.
From start to
And,
finish, how long do you think that whole encounter happened? To the point where you're in reverse now, in gear, and you're backing out. 5 seconds, 30 seconds,
Like-
10 minutes.
No, probably like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty quick.
Yeah. You come
Just
up
enough for
see
me to
it.
race a few
Yeah.
alternatives through my head and kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
rationalize what I'm looking at. And then I think we looked at each other for a little bit, and that's where I'm trying to mentally project, look, I don't mean you any harm.
Yeah.
Let's
But
go
the-
our separate ways. And then it turned, and
30 seconds, that's a long enough time to see it. Oh, what is that? As opposed to
Yeah.
if you were pulling up and you saw a shadow run behind a tree, that's a glimpse of something versus if you had 30 seconds looking at it in that general direction, you got a good look.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
You know what?
we looked at each other for a good bit.
The first time, it's funny. The first time, because he's known for pulling a few practical jokes. So when he first told me this story, he never mentioned Bigfoot ever. In our growing up, we never mentioned. When he first told me the story, I kept waiting for the punchline, kept waiting for the punchline, kept waiting for the punchline. And then he leaves, he goes home, or goes back to Texas or wherever. And there was no punchline. I'm like,
No punchline.
is that something a bit serious? And even a couple years later, I'm waiting for remember I told you that story? No. But
Nope.
yeah.
What's that phrase? That's my story. I'm sticking
That's-
to it.
Yeah.
I just noticed you have a bunch of Sasquatches or Bigfoots all over this place. You need to give a tour someday as a podcast of all the
Yeah,
things
Bigfoot
you got
beer.
in here.
At,
You know,
at this stage, Dave, I think there
I
are
just noticed. I'm sitting here. I
14 or
noticed.
15 Bigfoot.
Did it look like that one right there?
Yeah, that's a big one. He's sauntering.
That's a big one.
You sauntering?
Big guy. But yeah, I think right now there is either 13 or 14 Bigfoot related stickers, or
First of all,
that's a tin sign.
It's bad that he's counted them. He knows.
It becomes a trivia thing. So I'll ask somebody, can you count how many Bigfoots are in here? Because the whole idea is Bigfoot's hard to find. So
Like,
people,
where's Waldo?
Yeah, like where's Waldo? And somebody like, no, I counted 9. Nope, there's actually 14. So then they go back and they have to. So it's almost like an interactive game, Dave. It's like an entertainment facility.
I've not played that game, and I'm
That's
not,
a real
Said,
shit
"Hey, we
talk.
gotta find out 13.
But now that I know that it's a game, I'm going to go out and make sure that there's enough in here. In fact, I might add a couple.
Yeah.
Put a couple right there.
I keep
There's
adding.
13. There's 14, Mark.
I
There's
keep
one right
adding
over there.
They show up and people have given me a couple of stickers with them on.
That's good for you.
I just added one for you.
Yeah. You got a good one.
The New Orleans one, right? Or the Louisiana one right down there or something like that.
Yeah, very good. Let's sum this up. Or
Oh, here's one other thing. A lot
more?
of well, so this
much
might
for
be a
summer.
question that people have because I think in Louisiana they call them skunk apes, right? Have you heard that
Florida.
term?
I've heard that. Or yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Florida skunk ape, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, maybe not in that area, but
I've not
they
heard
call them
skunk ape.
the booger or boogers, like the wood
Oh,
booger.
yeah.
I mean, you've
Yeah.
heard wood booger,
Yeah.
and that's like but it becomes a Sasquatch because Sasquatch, I think, is from a tribe in the Pacific Northwest. So, whoever, whether they're native people or Uncle Billy in the woods, they called them wood boogers. you know, that's again going.
Booger.
Yeah. A book. But think like boogeyman, right? We use the term boogeyman, right? You call it
It's 10 years old.
boogeyman,
Boogeyman,
wood
reaching
booger,
through the,
you know.
What was the movie we were
windows.
just talking about?
Legend of Boggy Creek.
Boggy Creek.
So it's not Legend of Booger Creek,
Booger
but
Creek,
it's
but-
Boggy Creek. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's
Boggy
related.
Creek.
I saw that years ago. I'd have to go back and watch and see if there is some
Yeah.
kind of tie into that creature's name.
Academy Award winner.
Doesn't every one of us have a high school friend named Booger? I know I did. But what I was going to say is I didn't smell anything.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I wanted to dispel that. That's not that. I didn't smell that. I didn't. There
Okay,
was
yeah.
no
And they didn't see any orbs or anything like that.
orbs.
Yeah,
Orbs?
like
Like
some
light
people.
orbs? No.
Some people say before they see a Sasquatch, they see like a.
But I think that's at
Or-
nighttime too, though. It might,
No, I didn't
maybe
know.
during the daytime. Well, the tree canopy makes it a little darker.
Yeah, some people. Yeah,
I'll send you some
people believe they're-
podcasts.
I think the Native Americans they really believe it's something spiritual. And it's like another dimension type of thing.
Yeah,
right?
if it was spiritual, I didn't sense anything malevolent. I really didn't. And I'm sensitive to that, to spiritual, because I'm a traditional Catholic. So
Yeah.
I didn't sense anything malevolent in this.
Yeah.
It was.
There's definitely a lot of theories as to what they are, from just the unidentified bipedal hominid, I think is a term that you'll hear on all these podcasts that we just haven't found or seen. And
Yeah.
I think people ask,
Neanderthal or something.
it's something like that, or something that has progressed from a Neanderthal. And there's always that question like, why haven't we found a skeleton? Why haven't we seen this? But again, going back to my time in the woods, very rarely have I ever seen deer skeletons, raccoon skeletons. Those things, as soon as they die, they get eaten up by the environment. Bugs come out, the other animals scavenge from it. I even think Survivor Man had a series, and it was Survivor Man finding Bigfoot type thing, where he went into that with some of his experiences. And the topic came up, Dave, if they are a true race of type people, just like us having burial techniques, maybe they have a burial technique. So that's why we don't see a dead one. So I mean, there's all these ways to justify it.
Yeah.
But this, to me, definitely it's not a Class D. It was a Class A sighting.
Yeah.
And to me, it feels very real, but it also sounds like a bunch of other ones that I've heard. So it's not you saw something so extraordinary out of the realm, but I think that only adds to the possibility of it. I think there is a quote on the show you and I listened to where it says if you take all these supposed sightings, and I don't know how many there are, thousands, hundreds of thousands of sightings over the last 50 years or 60 years that they've recorded, and what if like 1% or 10% really were true? Everybody else is BS.
Yeah.
What if just a couple out of those were true? Then there's something more to it.
Yeah.
Even if
Then
only
just-
one is true.
And that's, I
Exception
think that's
proves
the
the rule.
thing that makes me want to believe. Again, not seeing it, and I'm not trying to, I know if I was out in the woods, whether I was hunting and I had a rifle with me or hiking, and I saw one of these things, I'd probably crap my pants. That it would be one of those things that would scare me. I don't want
You
to
hear stories about hunters all the time. They're like,
Yeah.
it was the last time they hunted when they saw something like that. It's like, yeah, I think I'm not
Stop.
going to do this again.
Yeah.
You know?
Stop.
Yeah,
Yeah, they'll
it
go
freaked them
back to
out
the
so much.
woods
It's
and-
like, yeah.
It makes you question your reality or the bounds you place on your reality. Something like this kind of pushes the envelope and makes you think maybe the world is a little broader than
We
than
don't
what
know
I
everything,
assume. Maybe there's a little more mystery to it. We don't know necessarily everything.
for sure.
True.
And that really, I think that's my takeaway from this is that God has created a universe that is much more vast than we can probably even conceive. And there are mysteries within mysteries that we don't even know we're supposed to solve yet. There's the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. And, so there's just a lot of mystery, and we can't be so arrogant that we think we know,
Quick to judge it, yeah.
what the boundaries of reality are.
Yeah. I think that's really well said. The arrogance of, do we really think we know everything? No, we don't. Nah. We got a lot more to learn.
So,
There's a lot of
Dave, do you have
mystery.
any more questions for Eric?
Or wanting to report it. One thing I got.
Has this converted you to be a believer, or
No.
were you a believer
Not really.
before?
I don't know that I wasn't. I don't know that I
Yeah.
wasn't a believer. But I think my philosophy is, I know, like the arrogance of man. You don't know what you don't know. There's things out there that we don't understand. We are a. It was
We have
proven by
blinders
the-
on a lot.
We're blinders, and we think that we're all that, but we're really an infinitesimal cog in the great universe of whatever. That's. You should get that when you watch the Artemis rocket launch off. It's a big deal. Despite all the other hype out there of everything else, we're very small.
Yeah,
So
sure.
yeah.
Very good. I think this is a good episode. Let's wrap it up. Chris, do you have anything else you wanted to add or questions or?
No, I just, yeah, I believe he saw what he saw. I think his is, again, unique because how it happened.
Yeah.
So,
No, for sure. I think the right word is provenance. His being in the military, that kind of stuff, that brings an extra level of authenticity to it.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's been some of those podcasts where I was excited to listen to the show, had a great title, and within 10 seconds, this guy is just spinning the yarn.
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going
Yeah.
to listen to the corner report or something. This ain't being worth it.
report.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, just something stupid and boring.
Yeah.
But wasn't that?
Switch a channel?
Yeah, it is what it is. But anyways, do we have another episode in the book, or not in the books, but lined up that we want to tease? Because we've done a couple teasers recently.
I don't know. I got so many teasers that I've continued to keep thinking about.
Yeah, we have a breath. So
I think the
Well-
Stagshead Tavern and looking for all the Sasquatches or Yetis, or whatever you call them.
yeah,
I don't want to get the terms mixed up. Yeti, Sasquatch.
I think that's a whole blanket.
Booger.
Wood booger, the wood skunk, yeah, skunk ape. There's even a name in New Jersey. They have a different name. Not the Jersey Devil. That's
I was
a
gonna
different
say,
creature.
Skunk Ape, New Jersey, something, whatever.
Yeah, but
there's all.
whole round. So, all right, so let's wrap it up, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us. If you have any questions, our email address is SHT Talk tavern@gmail. Drop us a line. We're on Spotify, YouTube podcast channel, and Apple Podcast. Review and leave a comment. Good night.
All right. Let's get a cigar and watch the game.
There we go.
Good job. Good job. Good job, fellas.
Holy cow.